All right. Hello, coworkers, and welcome back to the Motherlands, presented by Dicey Amazons and Critical Bard. An after-show discussion of the development and the events of Into the Motherlands campaign featuring Tanya DePaz, Christina Ariel, Michael Sinclair II, DJ Knight, and storyteller Eugenio Vargas. You can find all their socials in chat by using the command !MLCast. I am one of your hosts, Pi, and this is my co-host here, Candy.
Hi.
The guest?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No. I'm talking to Candy. Yeah.
Sorry, I switched my tab by mistake, and I'm like, I need my part. So yes, if you would like to support our channel, we are sponsored by Dice Envy and Grinding Coffee Co. Links are in the chat, and if you use code Dicey Amazons, you can save 10% or more on your order. Today on Back to the Motherlands, we have two guests. We have Michael Sinclair II, who plays Ailai, and we also have Sharang Biswas, a developer for Into the Motherlands.
So before we get into all of the juicy details of what happens behind the scenes of Into the Motherlands, we're gonna have a recap of what happened last week. And so to not be as spoilery and for give someone talk about it a little bit later, I'm just gonna do the highlights of each character, right? So this is my perspective of what happened for each character. Please feel free to interject if I got something completely wrong, because I'm a human and my attention is usually divided between multiple sources. So we start out with the solar flares. That's where we ended at session 1. So we kick off session 2 with the solar flares. And so the team is rolling really low. It's like me levels of low, where I'm just critting failure all over the place, and it's a little sad, and it's entertaining because it doesn't go the way you planned. But ultimately, it can be a little frustrating. So then next, moving into Silent 919, her confidence was a little rocked by not having those critical successes where she desperately needed them so they could avoid some of those, the solar flares and or the debris from the solar flares. But that actually led into a couple of really nice moments of vulnerability between Silent 919 and Bertrand. And I'm not going to lie, personally, I'm very excited to see what kind of personal growth Silent 919 has. It's very interesting to see Sila be vulnerable and then kind of reel it back in, when that tear, I feel like Claudia with the chance of meatballs, where the dad is I'm about to cry, and that tear starts to come out, and then he sucks it back up. That's what Sila does perpetually, and I'm kind of in love with it. So moving on, we have Akimbo, who I'm pretty sure still has ice on his head from the massive lump, I'm assuming, from being knocked back a little bit. I was very interested to find out if the HP of Ikemba dropped, and if so, what did it drop to? Is that how Cortex works? We'll talk about that in a little bit. So let's see what happened from there. Invicta is honestly, Invicta is kind of the heart of the team from what I'm realizing. Between the conversation that we had with Tanya last week and some of the fan art, I'm really enjoying the heart and the wholesomeness that Invicta is bringing to the party. But Invicta, sadly, like everyone else, is kind of realizing that this is what it's like to be with this team now. And she got a couple of solid successes. But also had that taste of what it felt like to fail at something, and to kind of be a little scolded by Silent 919 using the I gave you direct order with the whole line, I make it so, because I was a little afraid about that. I feel like it's my mom telling me to wash the kitchen again because I didn't do it correctly. Anyone else? Just me? No? Okay.
Oh yeah.
No, all right.
Yeah, so then we learn something I think a little interesting, and I'm really interested to go into this. We learned that Ailai has experience flying ships, and I'm interested to know any more information about that. We'll get into that a little bit later when I start giving Michael and Sharang a third degree interrogation of like
Sure.
what's going on behind the scenes, you know? Yeah, so a couple questions that I had, we'll get into those a little bit later. But, you know, as the episode was coming to an end, we have like the third wave of the solar flares. And luckily, with all of the help from the rest of the crew, Invicta, Ikemba, Ili, and Bertrand, Silent 919 was able to like pull that clutch save literally at what felt like the last moments of the entire campaign, as I don't know what would have happened if there would have been like a botch on that roll. Like I was nervous. I was very nervous about the future of the rest of the crew.
Same.
Yeah, it was. I think everyone on stream was like breathing a sigh of relief when the role was eventually a success. So we sailed the wistful wish sails over the last bit of the debris from the third solar flare, and we're finally out of dangerous way, the danger zone, if you will, for the moment, I'm assuming. And that led to this super delightful moment with Bertrand running down the hallway, just stomping his big old elephant feet, and then asking for a hug, or not asking for a hug, but going to give Silent 919 a hug, to which Silent 919 said, no, I'm not a hugger. And honestly, Sila, I'm the same. I'm not really a hugger unless I know you. Give me 5 feet at minimum before COVID, you know, like, why are you so close to me right now? Oh, sorry. I almost stepped on my dog because he is magically right there.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened after that? So after that, everyone's trying to see what the damage was between the engines and personal injuries with Ikemba. After Ili checks everyone out to make sure everyone's doing fine, which makes me think that Ili is going to be like a medic, combat medic, but not really combat, more medic. We'll talk about it later. I have theories. I've been thinking about this. We have like what I think is by far the best way to end a conversation between Silent 919 and Ikemba, where Ikemba was being a sweetheart, you know, being nice, being thoughtful, being luxurious, if you will. And my homegirl straight up like cocked her head to the side and powered the literal F down. Like, conversation's over. There is no reply. You cannot plug it in. You cannot pass go directly to jail. And that's kind of where things wrapped up in this session. So anything I miss? You guys want to go back over anything real quick before we get into these questions?
Thank you. You know, summed it up perfectly. I think that was good.
Thank you. Candy, anything you want to add, or any thoughts?
No, that's about right. I think my favorite part was there was a lot of favorite parts, but the powering down, I was cracking up.
Oh yeah.
That was,
I can't wait to use that on someone in real life. Like, how would that work? What would I do? I don't know, but I'm putting some serious thought into it, and I'm gonna make it happen. I'm gonna do it. It's gotta be like the most epic, like, talk to the hand that I've ever seen. Because there was no hand. There was no hand seen.
There you go.
All right, with that, let's get into some of these questions and find out a little bit more about the development and about Ili. So our very first question goes to Michael. Where did your inspiration from Ili come from?
That's a great question. I actually think this is it's one of the characters I didn't like really pull from anywhere. It was like, usually I find inspiration from like a show I've seen, a movie character, a D&D character I've interacted with, or an NPC that I've made. But this one was kind of the only character I think I came off the dome, because for Into the Motherlands, I don't feel like there's anything I've ever played or experienced that's like comparable. So I think this one was truly more off the top of the head for Ili. I don't. I kind of, what it was more of like personal interactions I've had with people, like how I felt like people who are similar to Ili are like. I couldn't find names, but you know, sometimes I call it like emotional memories. Like, I've had emotional memories with people who are similar to Ili, I don't remember their names, I don't remember the conversations, but I remember having like distinct feelings. So that's kind of that's the only place I pulled from. So I guess it's kind of off the top of the head or off the top of the heart. I don't know, whatever that is.
All right, cool. Next question is for Sharang. Where did you start developing RPGs?
Oh my God. Oh, whoa. Well, I started playing RPG. Well, I started playing RPG. No, actually, I started developing RPGs in the 3rd grade because on the bus home with my friends, I would start making these like storytelling games. I'd be like, oh yeah, and then you go here, then you go there, and there was no like conflict resolution mechanic, right? It was if it was a good day or not, I'd decide if you won the fight or whatever, right? I'd be like, you dodge, yeah, you do. And if I was the bad guy, I'd be like, no, you try and dodge when it hits you, right? I started doing that in 3rd grade, right? And then when I remember I first got, so I grew up in the United Arab Emirates, right? Where there is no tabletop RPG market. But I started playing Neverwinter Nights. Do you remember that? Like,
oh yes, I played that.
And I'm like, wait, this is based on something else. What? And I discovered what D&D was. And then I'm like, oh, I want to play this one day. And then finally in undergrad, I started playing Pathfinder. And I started getting into game design. I took a game design class under Mary Flanagan in undergrad. And I'm like, wait a minute, people make games for a living? Oh, right, they don't just grow off trees. And so that's when I started doing game design and RPG design. I probably started near the end of undergrad when I started playing a lot more than just that Pathfinder that I used to.
All right, awesome.
So really quickly, I'm totally going to cut you off and derail the conversation for a quick second. I just want to say that I'm super happy to be in this Zoom chat with all these tech people. Like we were talking about it before we went on air. And we're all in the STEM field, like hardcore nerds, like from the get-go, from jump, you know, like I'm gonna freaking here for it.
Caveat to that is that I have 3 tech degrees, but I do not consider myself a STEM practitioner, right? Because I'm a game designer and artist, and I am a computer science professor technically, but I teach game design. And so people
that's still totally STEM.
It's still, yes, it is.
Yeah, but my class actually de-emphasizes code because I'm like, you need to learn all kinds of game design. This is an intro class. It's not about game development, right? It's about game design. So I it's a point of pride for myself actually that I have a lot of STEM training, but I'm not a STEM practitioner because I don't like this current mindset we have of that everyone must do STEM, right? I think STEM is valuable and amazing, but so are other things.
Well, yeah. And that's why I really like adding A into STEM and calling it STEAM because I think arts, I mean, I play music, you know, like I'm very much also an artistic person, but yeah, I just wanted to take a quick time out for Twix for that, to just acknowledge all of the amazing genius minds in this Zoom channel real quick.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually what's funny, I'm more of a STEAM person as well. I actually taught STEM, robotics and whatnot. But like my degree is actually in graphic design. So I'm very much a proponent of a STEAM.
Yeah, I believe, like, I'm a big fan of, off topic, but I'm a big fan of liberal arts where everyone should learn a little bit of a lot of things.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
and,
absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. Awesome. Okay.
Moving on from education in America.
I'm like, there's a huge part of me that wants to pull that tab, but we can't. We gotta stay focused.
We gotta move on.
Right? Yeah.
We gotta go.
We'll talk about it offline. Offline, we'll rant until the cows come home.
Oh man.
All right. So, sort of in addition to the first question for Sharang, where in Motherlands can we see your imagination? Like, what did you help create?
One interesting thing that I really like this is that at the start, when Tanya first brought all of us together, we had this doc where all of us just threw a lot of ideas, right? So there are a bunch of ideas that inform every writer was informed by every other writer in some way. There are ideas that someone else came up with that I then wrote, and the ideas that I came up with and someone else continued and wrote. So that's one thing. I really want to say this is very much a team effort, right? Especially since we edit each other, do you have, so team effort. But the main things I am proud of writing. So I wrote nearly all of the Mansagene. I designed and wrote the Misajai. I wrote nearly all of the Munsalian culture, and I wrote some other other things that are in development and that might change. But those are the three big things that I think the viewers have seen so far that I did a lot of. And again, Dave Walters and Tanya had input in things, so I'm not going to be like, I am the sole creator of all these things, of course. But I would say those are my big parts. And when you said, where's my imagination, to further that, my undergrad and my next degree are in biotechnology, right? Which might show in the world a bit, because, for example, the Musalians are a very biotech-focused culture, right?
Yeah.
Even the Mansagene are made of ceramic, right? They're not made of metal. And I really wanted to do that because I wanted to differentiate us. If we're doing an anti-colonial science fiction, we're not just doing generic science fiction with Black people in it, right? That exists and it's great, right? It's great to have generic science fiction with Black people in it. But if we are aiming for an anti-colonial science fiction feel, how can we bake that into some of the technology parts, right? And the Misajai, for example, I wanted to focus on this idea of community, right? The Misajai embrace community in more than one way, right? Where they're villagers or whatever are all about community work. We don't have a one rule and whatever, but also they literally bind themselves to a mutualistic symbiont to form this communal thing. And so I want to be can we differentiate ourselves? And one way of doing that was biotechnology, right? And working with the living world and not just taking from the living world. So.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah, and that actually leads us a bit into the next question, which I would like both of you to see, get your insights on both from both of you. So, why is the Motherlands RPG in this story so important right now?
I'll go, I guess.
Okay. All right.
I think it's important because obviously, we're all BIPOC cast and crew, and the people who are writing and who are in the back, not the back, but people who are doing things on the back end and writing, creating. I think it's important because it tells our story and it tells it from a perspective that you're not going to see from other TTRPGs, and it's beautiful in that way because it's everything from the ground up. It's everything built from the ground up is coming from a perspective of just our cultures, everyone bringing their cultures to the front of the table. So I think that's kind of where, I kind of lost track of the question as I answered it, but that's my answer. Yes.
No worries.
I think kind of linked to what I said before. I think a lot of speculative fiction media that we consume, right, be it games, stories, movies, whatever, are based on a very Western notion of what speculative is, right? Which again, that has a place in the world, but we see a predominance of that, right? And it is good to have speculative fiction that speculates beginning from a different viewpoint, right? And so I, for example, did not know who the Mansa Musa was, right? Tanya and B. Dave Walters told me who that person was. And I'm like, oh, this is fascinating, right? I didn't even know that one of the richest men in history was from Mali, right? That is not something a lot of people know. So having these different perspectives is important, partially because this is what Ursula Le Guin said, right? There are these closed systems of thought that we can't get out of because they're they're so close. Like we can't get out of this notion that capitalism is the only way the world functions, because that is what we think, right? She says this is like, it used to be like the divine right of kings. A lot of people couldn't think of another way to exist. And in order to break out of that closed system of thought, we need to have art that discusses as many different viewpoints as possible. And so if we discuss what does a speculative science fiction world look like that comes from a Pan-African / Asian perspective rather than a Western perspective, those things will allow us to break free to imagine, because the role of speculative fiction very often is to imagine possibilities, and it is shown so many times that a lot of real progress, be it social, scientific, or artistic, whatever, is inspired by the popular imagination or
Oh no.
Okay. I absolutely believe that we need to consume art made from different perspectives.
Oh.
So, sorry.
No, you're just you're freezing a bit here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully
Sorry,
it doesn't like drop or anything. No, you're good.
Oh, no need to say sorry.
Yeah.
Your internet.
Yeah, I'll close my browser. I will not watch the stream so I can be clear.
There it is.
Damn you, Google, your resourcefulness. I can say that, and you all understand that Google's just a monster-hungry program. So
Yeah.
Because we
Yes.
all
It really
know
is.
some STEM.
I feel so seen right now. I feel understood.
Amazing.
All right. So Michael, what character, other than Eli, do you relate to the most right now?
Ooh, that's interesting. I think it's going to be Invicta. I think Invicta is probably the one I closely relate to, other than Eli, in a sense of they have, as far as like seeing the group for what it is, they kind of have a better understanding of the group and like the group dynamics of what's going on. At least it feels that way from how Tanya's playing her character and how Invicta presents herself. So I think it's more close towards Invicta. I know that Akimba is really deep in his thoughts, and he in some ways seems like kind of like the picturesque introvert of like really being in one's mind and like thinking about philosophy and thinking about just more one-on-one human interaction. Sila 919 is very objective and efficient and really good at what she does, and is more about like getting things done. And then I think that's where I say like Invicta has more of a mind to understand almost like the strengths and weaknesses of the group and understand how our relationships are. Even though we're very early on, I feel like Invicta has a good mind about where everyone in the crew is as far as our relationships go, and ascertaining like the insight into all the group, like just being able to peer into everyone in a sense.
Nice. Sharang, what about you? Kind of seeing these characters kind of come to life.
Yeah, so the question is, which one do I identify with the most?
Yeah, like relate to or identify with, yeah.
Oh my God, I don't know. Since I created the cultures that birthed some of them.
Is it like choosing like your favorite like toy or something like that? Or
I never played with toys when I was a kid, so not at all. Sorry, that's actually the truth.
Oh no.
No, I just didn't play with toys. I got bought a lot of toys. My mom used to make me play with them when people were over to show them that I appreciated their presence, even though I didn't actually. Yeah. Who do I think, like, I think in temperament, I really like Eli, right? I really like Eli's temperament a lot. I don't know if I relate to it. Maybe I want to. Maybe I want to be like silent and mysterious and calm all the time, but I'm absolutely not. I think want to be like that kind of like person. No. Not I want to be that kind of person. I admire that kind of person. Also, I just really like Mr. Zai. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I would say that.
Okay. So this is really interesting. Our group is really loving the Cortex system and the idea of these dice pools, and how it leads the story. What was your first impression of these dice pools? Like when you kind of figured out like how the mechanics worked for the system?
Why don't you go, Michael? You've been engaging with it.
Yeah. I'm just gonna write it down so I don't forget mid question.
I've just been reading the system, right? I haven't played the system,
Yeah.
so. So I think the mechanics of Cortex and Into the Motherlands, this is only, I want to say, I think this is the third TTRPG I've ever kind of gotten into other than D&D, which is weird. And this has all happened within like a 2 or 3 month time span. I've been playing D&D for like 5 years. So like I've just been picking up kind of new systems through another podcast I'm a part of, Fayforge Academy. We kind of like played some other systems with some people. So I'm kind of learning how to break my mind away as far as what a dice rolling TTRPG should look like. So the mechanics of Cortex, it's different in the sense of, I think it creates a lot more drama, and that's not a bad thing. Yeah. It makes your roles feel like they have a bigger, intense RP moment than I feel like other RPGs where, in other RPGs, it's a slow build up to, how intense it gets, where I feel like in the Cortex Into the Motherland system, it feels like in a way it feels a little bit more heroic because like, you have this role in front of you and it's so every little aspect of your role matters in the sense of, if you have a botch or a I forget what the just having a 1 is. But
a
hitch.
Yeah. So when you have a hitch, like all that contributes to bigger storytelling moments in the future, but that role in itself still is a big storytelling moment. So I feel like that's how the Cortex system is a little bit unique. And I read actually through the whole Cortex system, at least for the players.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting to see which one we chose to pick, but I think it works perfectly because through this storytelling, it's able to, and because it's a new system, it actually really allows us to present Into the Motherlands for all it is, because we're able to get more into the RP, get more into our backstories, and really bring that to the table with how, you get to pick a trait, or not a trait, but you get to pick your heritage or your culture. You get to pick like, your person's, I don't want to say class, I forget what it is, but their profession or what their specialization is. And then you get to pick, what they think is important. So all these layers of dice rolls essentially contribute to bigger RP moments compared to other TTRPGs I've been playing.
So like I'm a game designer, right? And I'm going to flex and say I'm a multi-award-winning game designer, right? So I have played and run a lot of different TTRPG systems, right? Not every, obviously, but a lot of them. And it's I'm going to say there's a big flaw in Into the Motherlands is that our GM is really good, right? That's a problem because me as a person who's interested in analyzing role-playing games cannot differentiate easily, at least at this stage, with the episodes I watched. I can't differentiate, like, is the work being done by the system or is the work being done by the really awesome GM and players, right?
Yeah.
So the system, when I was reading it, like, this seemed like a really interesting and cool system. I want to watch in action, see how it works. I'm like, damn, Eugenio is really good. I can't tell if it's him or if it's a system. Arg! But for now, the system seems really cool and really good for a system that doesn't just emphasize combat conflicts, right? Especially if we're trying, again, to make this anti-colonial sort of story, which isn't just about beating everything black and blue and then taking their stuff. Having a system that doesn't prioritize just violent conflict like this one is really was a really good choice on behalf of the art creative design team. B. Dave Walters and Tanya, basically.
So I know we're only a few episodes in, but you said that you really can't tell the difference between like the system and Eugenio's like influence on it.
For now.
So I'm actually interested to see it. I'm going to be looking out for it now to see if it stays as seamless. And if it does, the system is pretty cool.
Henio, I listened to Henio's other main podcast, right?
Yeah.
And Henio's a very, very good DM, right?
Yeah.
And so sometimes, like, I have definitely played and run games where I'm like, oh yeah, the system is really allowing for these things, it encourages these things, really well designed.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, this system is shite, but our group is amazing, so we're having an amazing time. The DM is cool, the players are awesome, they're the cute guys. We're having an amazing time, right? So.
Cool. I can't wait to see what separates, or if it actually even does, you know, as they keep playing.
I mean, from what I've read and what I've seen so far, the Cortex system is great. So
yeah. Cool. All right. Unica or Pi, you had a question that you wanted to to ask.
Yeah. So wait. What question are you talking about? Because I had a bunch of questions on this.
Well, you do. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Whichever one you want to.
Yeah. I had a bunch of questions. It was a whole like me just feverishly typing. Yeah. So where's the pop at? Okay. Can we get any more information about the spine rippers?
I don't think I can give you that information.
I was hoping for something. I mean, like, okay, so like, I totally realized that we're gonna see more of it from Invicta, right, later on. But like, come on, you gotta know something, little.
I'm gonna confess that I don't know that much information about it.
See, that's how we do things. It's all compartmentalized.
Nice.
Like the person who needs to know knows. No one knows the whole thing.
Again,
it all works.
We all read all of it, but do I retain in detail every single detail everyone's written? No. I use it. I mean, there's also. I mean, it's actually interesting because we have separate writers, right? And we all read all of it. And sometimes I will be like, oh yeah, I really want to include like the higher knoll, something about them in my thing, right? So I read them all over again, so I know a bit more about the higher knoll because I've been reading them to write my own thing. The other stuff, I'm like, I've read it, yes. And again, I'm on 4 different writing projects right now, so you don't want me to tell you about White Mana by accident. Well, maybe Michael does because he told me he wants me to tell him about that. But yeah, so I will refrain from answering that question for mysterious reasons.
Okay, fair enough. I had to try.
Because when that was mentioned in episode 0, I think the session 0, episode 1, like chat went wild. I was watching chat. And I was just like, wow, okay, so let's, at least see if we can get some information. If not, we'll wait for it like everybody else.
I'm waiting with
good that I don't know. Now you'll be even more eager for when the information actually comes out.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I just need to take Eli through some really risky business, and then I have to roll a spine ripper. But I love Eli, so maybe not. I don't know.
Okay, so Sharang, what do you think of the story so far? I know that you're a little bit behind, but what do you think about like how everything is playing out? We've talked a little bit about the mechanical system and the characters, how they're coming together, but what are your thoughts?
I'm interested. I don't like watching live shows because I like watching things and like I'm cooking now, I will listen. I'm doing this now, I will listen. Right. So I'm at the end of the first as in episode 1, not counting episode 0, right? Episode 0 is just
I mean, like we're math people, so like episode 0, like I don't,
zero index. That's where it starts.
Yeah,
0 indexing, right? We talked about this right before this, right?
Yeah. If everyone can open up their textbooks, we'll do that real quick.
I think I'm going to be editing one of the next pre-written adventures. I think we have to see. But I'm really liking that the adventure at the beginning, the first conflict is not someone's attacking us, save us, right? The conflict is we have a water problem, right? And we need you to bring us water. And
it's
a
humanitarian problem initially.
Yes, and yes, it might be related to armed conflict, but the initial framing I really like. That it's of course, they're gonna be the pirates and blah 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 blah. But again, initially, it's a resource and humanitarian and community aid sort of problem, right? Which again, I think fits in this like decolonial narrative a lot, right? It also helps prevent against that. I know like white savior is not the right word in this case, but the fact that this is another culture, another planet, right? And so we are these other people coming and saving you has smacks a bit of like if it would just like help us fight off these people, that smacks a bit of like white savior issues, right? But the fact that our planet has a water issue, we will rely on our neighbors to help us with that, I think has a much more like decolonial feel. It has again that community feel that, that I was initially talking about, and so I'm really like
you're bringing your neighbor a cup of sugar, you know, instead of like coming to save the day and like save them from being the savages that we think they are, or something like that.
I like that a lot. I love Eugenio's voice for the engineer. I texted him because I'm like, I met Eugenio a few years back at PAX, and we've been texting since because yay, gay game people. And I'm like, oh my God, Eugenio. And Eugenio's a trained actor, right? He's a professional actor. So like hearing his voice, I'm like, amazing voice, thank you. And like the small, I really like, he's a great GM. I love the small detail. Like you are sitting on this booster seat. And I'm like, wait, that's hilarious. And he's really proud.
And now I have a visual of these fully grown adults who are trained sitting in booster seats, crisscross applesauce.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's funny. And he was like, the way he's like, oh, the engineer is really proud that he made these boosters of you. The controls are still like huge and nothing else is inside, but you have booster seats. I'm like,
amazing,
really funny.
It's like y'all are like fully grown Rugrats, you know?
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
So I am really enjoying that, and I actually like being behind in a way because that means that if I do go through a spree, I will listen to 5 episodes at once. There's enough of those episodes that won't run out, right? So
nice.
Yeah, love that answer. Absolutely love that. So this is for both of you, Michael and Sharang. In your words, what is a biopriest? Because the term is up to interpretation depending on who you talk to.
I mean, I'll go first so that Sharang can tell me how I'm wrong.
See what you did there.
Yeah. You know, it's all STEM stuff. But anyway, biopriest, from what I understand, is someone who approaches like either healing or reconstruction from the standpoint of life starts from ones and zeros, kind of how Akimba or DJ, what's his name? DJ Knight has explained it. So apparently, like from what I understand, life and reconstruction starts with ones and zeros or on and off switches, and being able to manipulate how those patterns go is how you either heal someone or rebuild something, or how to give care. A sense is like breaking everything down to its fundamental things, and then essentially repairing or building from that standpoint, and looking. And it almost seems that that's their outlook on life. Like it doesn't just come with how they perform their healing or rebuilding. It also comes from how they perceive life from these standpoints of it's not so much chaos theory. Like it almost seems like there's a reason how everything kind of comes to fruition from certain events and how that all kind of translates. So that's my interpretation or how I perceive it.
Okay. That makes me think that maybe Akimba isn't necessarily like the majority in frame of thought of like we need to treat all life as being precious, and even though we have the power to manipulate life, like we should take that responsibility very seriously. Maybe there are some other people that have a different mindset that are like no, I'm exchanging these ones and zeros, bruh, right now.
Yes, there are. Just saying.
Oh.
Yes.
Right. So biopriest, I say biopriest is a tripartite term, right? There's the bio, there's the priest, and then there's this code aspect that Michael was talking about, right? So I think all three are interesting and important, right? So there's the bio, right? We established that synthetic biology is very important in this on this planet, right? Especially because metal is not as commonly mined, right? And we're currently in the background writing perhaps why it's not as commonly mined, right?
Ooh.
I actually just set an idea in for edits. So a lot of the technology, for example, of the Masalians is I mean, I'm not saying there is no metal, right? But a lot of the technology of the Masalians is not, it's organically grown, or it's like ceramic and things, right? And so bio is really important there, right? This idea of synthetic and code is really important. I don't remember who came up with that idea particularly, but it is that we can analyze, we have the expertise to such a degree that we can analyze and manipulate biological code as easily as we can manipulate binary code, right? Which pi you are very familiar with. It is fairly easy to manipulate, right? And then there's the priest part, which I think is interesting in a different way, because when I wrote the Masalians, for example, the Masalians have a whole echelon of society called the Ribos priesthood, which are these biotechnology priests, some of whom are technically biopriests, not all of them are, that control the flow of this biotech in that society, right? But they have come to, that society at least has come to treat biotechnology almost like a religion, right? So the Masalians, many of them have what are called blessings, which you and I might call mutations, right? So they have like small mutations, right? And
I love the wording on that too. I'm incredibly sorry to cut you off, but the wording that it's a blessing and not like an X-Men thing where like it's a curse and the responsibility that I have to take, and yada yada yada. It's like you've been blessed with this extra feature.
Yeah, I was again thinking about how can we, the whole idea, a lot of this is reframing, right? Like, can we reframe, like the classic mutations that we've seen is through X-Men, right? Like, oh, it's a curse, some people think it's a gift, right? What if it's the other way? What if most people think it's a gift and some people think it's a curse, right?
Yeah.
And so we talk about, they've kind of turned this into an almost religion. And in fact, the headquarters of the Ribos is the Hur Chapel, right? It's a chapel. So it's almost worshipped. In fact, we're obviously, a lot of the lore, we're still, changing, like Eugenio has said on screen, like we're going to see what works, what doesn't work. But at the moment, the lore says that the regent of the Masalians has been cloned again and again and again and again for hundreds of years, right? It is a piece of hair or something from Mansa Musa, where the DNA was extracted and clones were made every generation of the Mansa to run Musalia. And the problem is that the DNA is currently degrading, and so not all the clones are viable. Also, like the clones are very different from each other. Like some of the clones are not even men, right? Some of the clones are trans, right? They're like, nope, I'm a woman. Right, and I'm going to be the queen or the regent.
Oh my God, that's amazing! That's amazing. It's like multiplicity, but if multiplicity got it right, you know?
And
like,
that's
awesome.
And that's interesting. And we talk about misusing, right? The not every part of the Ribos is good, right? For example, many of the Ribos think that they should hoard all the biotech secrets and no one else should have them, right? So, for example, one of their creeds is gene is truth, right? And the fact that the different clones of the regent are so different from each other goes against the idea that gene is truth. Because theoretically, they should all be like the Mansa completely, right? But over hundreds of years, that has not been the case. So there's like stuff going on.
Awesome.
Ooh,
Again,
yes,
That's cool.
this might change. We might, as we play.
absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, let's tweak this.
I'm completely engrossed in the world, no matter what way it goes, and because it honestly it just challenges the way that I've thought about science fiction and role playing games. Like from a young child, like I grew up watching Voyager with my mom because that's the way that we bonded. You know, to see like one like sci-fi and then another like a woman in like the captain's seat. Like that's all that I had growing up, and so like that changed my world. I'm like, this is doing something similar. What's just it's offering me like not only one different point of view, like as with Voyager, but multiple aspects of like a whole new world imagined that completely acts like all the bad shit that happened to like Black and brown bodies just didn't happen, you know,
And we also
I want to go to college in that world.
Oh yeah.
And we also wanted to provide like rethink many of our societal things, right? For example, the Mansegene are androids, right? And while some of them may decide that they want to be a certain gender, they're androids, so they have no genitals to be like, oh, and this genital determines what my gender and sexuality and sex is, right? No, right? We wanted that to be rethinking. Or the Misagi, you are part sea urchin almost, right? There is a sea urchin polyp that's introduced into you. What does gender mean to someone who is a sea urchin symbiont, right? Misagi cannot, like a Misagi, a full Misagi cannot reproduce like a human, right? Because they can't anymore, right?
That was one of my questions. Okay.
Yeah, they can't because they have. That's why they have to be made each time. Each like a human is introduced to the Minabai polyp, and then you become a Misagi, right? So what does that mean in terms of, can Misagi even have romance? Like, do they even feel romantic attraction? I have not decided that as a writer. I'm going to leave that up to the players and the DM, right? Like, we want to read, like, or the Mansegene are again androids. They form thruples, right? They have this conception of partnership that is always three people, and for them, it's weird to not have three people in a romantic relationship, whatever romance means for art making cyborg androids, right? So we really want to question, push together. Like, if we didn't grow up on Earth, if we grew up in this fantastical place with all these different things going on, like there's a species that starts out as sentient space dust and then turns into people and then turns into crystalline statues, right? Like if you have that going on, like how would it be that gender and social norms are the same as on Earth? That does not make sense.
That would be 100% like egocentric and sophomore to even imagine a world that still like was bound to those same chains that we're held to, you know, in our current lives. Yeah. Absolutely. That's amazing. And honestly, like those are honestly great answers. I mean, it's difficult for me to try to put into words like what I'm pulling out of the story, because it's so many different things, and I need to watch the stream multiple times to one, understand everything, because it's also a very, very new system, and then two, like get my thoughts and feelings together on it as well. So I started putting y'all on the spot for asking about that, how you like the story, but you know,
sure,
hard hitting questions over here.
Perfect.
All right. With that, we are going to check out some fan art that we have collected. So I'm going to switch over to that real quick.
And this fan art is like so good.
They're so fast.
Yes.
So fast.
Oh my God. Like, I don't understand it. But so the first pieces of fan art that we have are from Aaron Radney, who is in chat. Hey, Aaron.
What up, Aaron?
And he got some inspiration on the outfits from the original art from Twisted, and then just like the descriptions that all of the players came up with, and just looking at these and like amazing.
I really like. I'm watching it again because my internet's better. I really like the clothing detail.
That's 100%. So good.
Yes, the detail is amazing on these, and so there are a few.
Yeah, I mean this exploration of like what, like not only like what the specific characters look like, but what the cultures look like as well.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I think that'll provide some inspiration for like people like myself that want to come behind you all and like make a character that's, you know, Muslim or something like that, you know, or like so like what will my character look like? Because I usually find myself in a space of like picking a picture offline and going off of that. You know, it's hard for me to
and that's hard.
Yeah.
That, I mean, yeah. But no, I like these art. Like, I love how the accents and the art style and the how the clothing's used, like, all that seems very practical. We were talking about steam earlier, but like how this clothing is made seems very like steam oriented in the sense of you have like the culture part kind of there, but you also have like it's very practical to use. So I like the amalgamation of both, because you know, we're using this for Into the Motherlands, but if you find inspiration and want to do something else in some other thing, like it's really easy to kind of, you know, pull the inspiration from there. So I agree with you. Is it Kai?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of details important, right? Because these clothing, these are details, right? And I think that's really important to tie the details again back to our goal, right? So, for example, when we're naming the Mansegene, for example, the Mansegene word comes from the Soninke language, which is one of the largest languages spoken in Mali, right? So I was like looking at like languages of Mali. I had to look at a French to Soninke dictionary because there aren't a lot in English, and I speak French luckily. And then I'm like, okay, how would this be pronounced? So I looked up the grammar of Soninke and like looking at the IPA, right? And I think it's important that these names don't come, again, talking about details, they don't come from Western names, right? Because why would someone who's descended from the Mansa Musa call an alien a Western name, right? Like that's not the language. They didn't speak Latin then, right? They spoke Soninke or Arabic, right? So like a lot of these, like the Misajai comes from Arabic, right? So a lot of these details, these names and things, we also as writers tried to be cognizant of like, where do these come from?
Because it means something. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Words mean things, for sure.
Words mean things.
No, like honestly, I'm not saying that lightly. Like words mean things.
Yeah, absolutely. I recently, not recently, but I frequently watch Asian Represent, their Twitch channel where they do Asian reads, and so it is mind blowing to me, like how the characters and the species are written in some of these stories that are not even that old. You know, you really can't blame it on like, oh, like that was like the 80s or that was the 70s. People thought differently that time. Like we're talking about stories and campaigns that were written, you know, not too long ago, you know, within a decade, you know, of today's current date. And, you know, they just really, really like no one did any research at all. You know, they just went on like whatever bedtime stories they had accessible, you know.
Yep.
And sad.
I think that's
ran with it. Yep.
I'm not going to say lazy because I don't think laziness exists, but I think that's not putting a lot of thought into the art where it could have been put, right?
Yeah,
I think it is what part of a writer's job, I think, is to do a little bit of research and tie things together. And then that's what I'm striving to do.
Yeah.
Cool. And then we did get a note from chat that this was actually commissioned. This was fan art that was commissioned, so that's pretty cool.
Oh.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That people are commissioning like stuff from Into the Motherlands.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I mean, get the bag.
Cool.
You know what I'm saying? Like, get paid what you're worth. This work is really good work.
It's good.
So,
I'm going to count this as the first time fan art has been made on my work. I'm going to just call it my work so I feel better, even though it's
go on.
Work.
Yeah.
Fan art of my work.
Exactly.
Keep flexing.
If someone please write Mansegene Misajai erotic fan fiction, then I will be complete.
Oh, please.
Then I will be complete.
Oh,
we might know a few people.
I was gonna say.
People
who like to write some fanfic.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Like write about it. Again, a throuple, please write about it.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. That would be awesome.
I want to know what those family dinners are like.
Yeah, yeah. Like,
probably
what
great.
face will I wear today? What face to be go on our date in?
Ooh. What do they do
cool.
on dates? I have so many questions.
Tanya's saying if folks write it, we can't read it legally. Right, I forgot that.
Yeah.
Tanya's correct.
Yeah.
But I will know that it is out there, and I will be happy that it is out there.
Yeah, just tweet about it. We won't open the link. Just say I did it, and then
Yep.
just like,
Say I wrote
Did it, but we won't click it.
thruple fan fiction, and I will just be happy.
yeah, there
Candy
you
and
go.
I will read it and we'll report back on our findings.
Be like, this is awesome. It did you proud.
This is great.
Like,
yeah.
And we will, and Michael and I will grin at you in glee.
Yep, exactly.
All right, so the next piece
next
we
picture?
have is the official art for I Lie.
Oh yeah, this is awesome.
And it is. I love the colors. I just love the pose, everything.
I love the colors.
Yeah,
So
it was
Love the lips.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was actually live at Pleasantly Twisted's Twitch channel when she was making. Actually, when she was making, maybe not all three. The three except Sideline 919. So I was like there. So when she was making Highlight, I was just like, I was probably doing, obviously I'm like doing homework and crap. And then I was like, oh, I should just go check out Pleasantly Twisted's thing. And she was making the character. And she's like, Michael, it's perfect that you're here. Like, what colors should I be using? So we kind of had like a little like back and forth artist thing of what colors should she be using for I Lie. And we just kind of went from there. And that's how we got to all those color schemes that you see there.
how did you get to those colors, or did you imagine that when you're first thinking of Isla?
I did some research on my own. I forget where I pulled the source from, but I was just like looking at different basic like African garb, tribal wear, and like things from like cultural wear and things that they wear at ceremonies. So I was like, okay, seems like we're getting a lot of accents of like, you know, these deep yellows and oranges, and then some blues to kind of accent those things. And some like I always love the color green, so I just implemented my own like little green in there, and that's where I came with those colors. The lipstick, like people really love the lips there. The lipstick was I really love lavender. Like I love eating it, I love smelling it, I love drinking it. Like any form I can get lavender, I will take. So I was just like, you know what, we're gonna put a little lavender spice on I Lie, and so I asked Pleasantly Twisted if she can put some lavender matte lipstick on I Lie. So yep.
I wrote
cosplayers, you heard it, Matt.
So yeah,
I was saying I wrote the eyes to be purple, so I think the lavender works super well with that.
Yeah. I'm not a makeup person, but like colors mean like as much as words mean things, like colors mean things too. So like I felt like if someone was Misagi, I feel like they would probably accent, if they chose to wear makeup, they would accent something that would kind of reflect or kind of complement you know, their features. So I was like, lavender looks great. So we went with that. Yeah.
But I also, in this art, I love the shape of the lip. The shape is like this really interesting expression. Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
It's great. It was wonderfully done. Pleasantly Twisted came up with the pose for sure. That was all of them, and that was all her, and it looks great for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my, oh man, it just looks so, I mean, like, interesting. I feel like I'm not doing it justice by just saying interesting, because once again, it's a new way of imagining a different way that a humanoid can take, you know, aesthetic shape, you know? Yeah. So it's not overly masculine. It's not overly feminine in the, like the shape of the body. And I saw that Twisted used her frame as like the underlying structure.
Oh yeah.
Which was great, because like it once again, it doesn't look like Eli is supposed to be anything except for Eli, you know?
Yep,
once again,
that's exactly it.
Yeah. So, and also like I have lavender honey in my cabinet right now, because I'm also a huge fan of lavender.
Yes.
It's so good.
So good.
So good.
Can I go on a slight writer thing from what you just said?
Yeah.
So you mentioned the word humanoid, right? And I think that's a key point, because something that irritates me a lot is when science fiction depicts all like alien cultures and species as human-like, right?
Yep.
Like, why are we so anthropocentric? If there are billions of plants in the world, why do they all look like two-legged things, right?
Why?
Not the problem, but the issue is in a game, it's different, right? Because you want the players, and in a game that's streamed, the audience to identify in some sense with these players or with these characters, right? And so you have this thing about how do I push away from this anthropocentrism while also keeping the physicality relatable in some way, right? That's why I believe we go for like a human animal hybrid so much, right? Like there's a hyanol, there's the like pachyderm people, I forget the species name, the culture name. Because you want the players and the audience to identify. It's like if everyone looked like Jabba the Hutt, you know, it's a bit more distant, right? So one challenge was that, right? So when I was writing Miss Ajay, I'm like, I want them to feel alien. And then how do I do that? Okay, symbiosis. The symbiont is not at all human. It's like a sea anemone, sea urchin thing. Right? And yet the person looks humanoid but has these like slight differences. So I was trying to like marry those two, because when I write fiction or when I write NPC cultures and things, they don't necessarily look like two-legged people, right? They look like weird stuff.
Yeah.
Sorry, you said humanoids, a slight tangent there.
Yeah, and honestly, like that comes from like a lack of word for how I would refer to alien species.
Yeah,
that
because
still
we aren't aliens. Yeah, we are humans. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm super okay. So I will fully admit that I was very interested to find out where, Michael, you were going to take Eli, like with the way that it looked, and with the personality. And I have some questions about that a little bit later, probably after the break.
Sure.
But yeah, let's keep moving. I know we're behind time already because we're just hanging out.
Very good.
All right. So the next one is from Remy Lee Art. And we had some from the during the last episode as well.
Oh yeah.
And, whew,
she's been fantastic.
Yes. Awesome. Also so quick, so fast.
Oh yeah. It's like 5 minutes after the episode releases. It's just it's done.
Yeah.
It's there.
Hey, maybe
full graphic novel's been published.
Drawing.
Yes.
I love it. I love that.
But the very like, oh, I just lost my words all of a sudden. But the very popular luxurious quotes.
Looks like they're in chat. I don't know if their username is Kiahari or Kiari. It seems like that's their Twitch handle.
Yes.
Hey, Remy.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad all the artists are joining us today.
Yeah, please. Awesome.
I
love that quote, right?
Yes.
I love the like luxurious quote. That was again completely. That's the power of gaming, right? It arose from the situation. I love that quote.
Yeah, that's a good quote for ending 2021 and going into 2021.
Absolutely.
Let's be luxurious with one another, because it's been some times, but I think it's an awesome quote to just pull out of the game for sure.
And I love the expressive text boxes, right? Like look at Sila's text box, and then the sinusoidal, right? The sinusoidal way that it's being entered. The font choice is a lot.
That is wonderful.
And then the word luxurious, you can see the emphasis the character's putting on it, like luxurious.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Really, really nice piece of art.
Yes, a lot of.
And to think that DJ came up with that line like as a comeback to what Simon said, like it wasn't even like it was a predetermined situation. It was like, let's be like.
Oh yeah, I love the back and forth with this cast because we're like quick with it. It's so good. It makes for great moments. It's so good.
The wit and banter is up 100%. Yeah, that's great. Which also makes it like the rewatchability on it is so high because like I'm either like engulfed in what a character said, or like a scene that's being set, or maybe something happened and like the dialogue was a little bit too quick and I wasn't quite paying enough attention to it. And so the rewatch has been just as exciting for me, as the original watch.
Yeah, absolutely. This one is by Sleepy, who was in chat earlier. I don't know if he is still here, but he he drew our favorite Bertrand.
With the amazing voice, with
Yes.
with Eugenio's amazing voice.
So good.
Absolutely, yes.
That's good. That's how, like, honestly, that's a pretty good interpretation of Bertrand. Like, that's how I feel like Bertrand
Yeah,
looks
just
like, for
like
sure.
happy and cool. Yes, absolutely.
That was session 0 too that John drew that, right?
Was
say
they
John-
introduced in session 0?
no
I
one.
think it's
No?
one.
Yeah, I
One?
think they
Okay.
were
Yeah,
introduced in session
session
1. Yeah.
Mhm.
What is time?
Yeah.
What is time? especially in the motherlands. What is
Yeah.
What is time?
Yeah.
For
We actually
sure.
haven't found that out
time?
just yet. And then the last ones are the ones done by Nadia, who
Yeah.
jumped into Hero Forge and created these characters.
Hell
and
yeah.
That's really epic.
whew, it really
So
is.
good.
Like
based
Yeah.
on that initial drawing, it
yes,
seems, right?
yes, based
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
initial drawing.
Mm-hmm.
That looks good.
I
Um,
cannot get Hero Forge to work for that well for me at all.
It takes some finagling. It
It
really
does.
does. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
it's a whole CAD program. And I'm terrible at CAD programs. So
Amazing.
but
Yeah,
I'm
Yeah,
excited
that one's popping.
how nice the outfit came out on this one, like
Yeah.
similar like to the art. So
yeah,
Really well
which
done.
totally reminds me as it scrolls through. Did it scroll through all the other characters as well?
Oh, here we go.
Their
it's going. Yeah, it's
forges?
going through.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I've been putting some serious thought into my Ikemba cosplay because I'm already halfway there with the haircut.
Oh yeah.
And so yeah, I really wish that I had more time to like get the materials needed to like make the costume for Halloween. It'll have to be an after Halloween situation to like do it right. But like I don't know if DJ will ever see this, but like it's coming, bruh. The cosplay is coming.
Yes.
We'll let him know.
I might
We'll
even,
let
like,
him-
do
we'll
some-
let him know.
Yeah, some pull-ups to like get the gun show going,
There you go.
Oh, man. And then we have Invicta.
Uh-huh.
Looking awesome there with the blades.
I really love the way that Invicta's and it sounds funny enough, but the way Invicta's hair is like it's braided, like, and it's not even like braided in a manner that is like it's like meant to be like feminine or something. Like it's totally like a protective situation. Like I have all this hair, I need to do something with it, I'm gonna braid it.
Yep.
Like, the functionality of it is like really what gets me. Like I'm 100% function over aesthetics,
Because hyenas have functional hair much more than humans do, right? We don't use our hair anymore, but hyenas do. So they have to think about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
And then here is Ikemba.
Yeah.
What is Akimba holding?
looks like some
It's
sort of-
like a little digital
Like
Yeah.
a biopriest device, I
bio-
guess.
yeah, like some like device.
Ah.
Yeah,
I
it,
like that.
I had to see it from the front to be like, oh, okay. Because from the
Okay,
back,
is
I
it
was
weird to be
no,
like that
what
character is like kind of hot?
Yeah, question. Yeah, I was about to say, why does that character look like it's saying girl? Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
what
yeah.
that's what it looks like it's saying.
I'm like, girl, Nadia, you look kind of hot.
I'm gonna break you
Akimba
down,
is
girl.
Spitting game right now. Spitting game.
Yeah, he is.
As a mini. I love it.
I mean,
Pixel
let us be
Crush-
luxurious.
Pixel crush is a term used in game design, right? Is there something miniature crush? I don't know.
I mean, maybe. I mean, definitely making the face like, damn, girl, come over here and get some of this. Like, you see this device I got in my hand?
yeah.
Love it.
Would that make Akimba into a fuckboy? Quick, big questions.
Oh,
Ooh.
mm,
Ooh.
That's a
questions.
good question.
yes. Maybe we'll find out.
We'll find out. I think that's
Maybe.
a find out. I think that's
Maybe.
a find out.
Play to
Yeah.
find out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Play to find out. I mean, okay, an interesting question. I won't go into too much detail because it's, we're on Twitch. Is if you can do a lot of synthetic biology, what does that mean about how we interact with each other in romance and sexuality?
I think that makes it more mental than physical because the physical you can change and upgrade and do whatever you
That's
want
a
with it. So
really
it has
good-
to be
yeah.
more about
Yeah.
like the what's going on up here.
Yeah.
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 That's
Sure.
really interesting. Yeah, interpretation of that. Yeah. Like, you're like bodies. What about bodies? We can change them. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, you can change your face and you can change like any like part of your body that you feel like you want to for whatever reason. Like, then who needs to keep
Dwell
up
on
with the
that.
standards?
Who needs to dwell on
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
This-
can I have a conversation with you?
and then and then we
Yeah.
have Sila 919.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And this
What's
again, outfits not too
what's
far
coming
away
out of her
from
eye?
what's up.
No, that's her hair from the side. It looks like it's coming out her eye, but it's
Oh.
from the side.
Side,
Oh right, it's
yeah.
her like
Right.
bionic hair.
Yeah.
It's her
Uh-huh.
hair, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah,
interesting.
okay.
I wonder if the artist, if Nadia decided to give Sila a human mask because
Mhm.
Sila has lots of masks, or
Mm.
is it that Hero Quest doesn't allow you to make more complex features on your face?
I
I don't know.
think it's
It's-
the latter.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it is.
Okay, I just wondering.
Yeah, I did definitely like to see some more options on there.
Yeah.
They
Mhm.
have a lot. Like don't get me wrong, but I
Mhm.
definitely want to see a few more. But they come out with them like weekly at this point.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
But at least all the accents hit it. I don't think
Yeah.
the face could do it, but I think all
Yeah.
the accents and touches definitely do it on the,
Exactly.
on the
Yeah, and
application.
the outfit is nice.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. You can even go behind and like paint on a face.
Oh yeah.
You know, if you wanted to, 'cause you're
Mhm.
close enough. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not talented in that particular way, but someone else is.
Alrighty, that's actually all of the fan art we have, and so we're gonna go on break, about 5
Sweet.
minutes,
Perfect.
and then we got a few more questions after, and then we'll close it up. All right,
Sounds good.
all right, y'all. We'll be right back.
See you in a couple minutes.
remembering what we said and recapping it in the chat.
Oh,
what?
yeah.
Oh my
Absolutely.
god. I feel so sexy right now.
You should. It's a pretty illustrious chat we have going on
Yes.
here.
Very
I feel
luxurious.
so cool. Yeah, so luxurious. Yeah. Oh my
Hey,
god.
y'all.
Love it.
We are back.
Oh, was my word sexy bleeped out? Wow.
Oh, was it really? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
Oh, yeah,
that-
it
that
was.
Whoa. Again,
Yeah.
All the cusses are bleeped.
it's not a cuss anyway.
How is sexy cussing?
Well, okay, I didn't mean that. I just meant all the
Right,
Right.
Yeah.
the spicy
Okay.
words.
Yeah,
the spicy words.
There you go.
Anyway, what if I say the word sexual? Is that bleeped out? Like, was it a sexual dimorphism between these
Nope,
two
it's got it.
species?
Nope.
Okay, sexual
Wow.
words, but sexy
Okay.
doesn't. Huh, interesting.
All right. That's how we living out here. Okay.
All right. So, a few more questions. And I think the majority of these are a bit episode specific. So let's
Yeah.
check it out. Pi, do you actually want to start?
Yeah, for sure. Because there are a lot of questions involving highlight.
Let's
So who was Eli before the ceremony? Like I realized that Eli was a different person before the ceremony took place.
Yeah.
Who were they?
I think, I don't, let me get this term right. Like, I think, just to get this a little bit of history, in my mind, like, right, they are assigned male at birth. Kind of, that's how they came up, and they're really inspired. Like, we've all seen, like, motivational teenagers out in the world who are, like, doing the right thing and, like,
And stuff.
calling us generation out, like, all that, right? So I feel like that's who I don't even have their name, like, because it's not very relevant, right? But like they or he in that at that time they're just a very inspired individual trying to do the right thing, not necessarily calling out adults, but practicing what they preached, trying to make sure that everyone's in the community, everyone's taken care of. And when it came to take part in the ceremony, it was kind of, they felt like a natural progression to where they were and to what they wanted to symbolize or become. So it just, to me, it all flowed and just made sense, in the sense of, this person wants to, like, they've been practicing what they preach up till like late teenagehood, and at the time where people came up to them and said, hey, do you want to, essentially become a misagi and, like, go ahead and go through the ceremony. They were all about it so that they can essentially have a higher point of responsibility and be able to have a little bit more influence in creating the change that they've been wanting since the beginning. So
I actually really like, Michael, that you haven't thought a lot about the person before, because like you said, is it relevant, right? They clearly wanted to become something else.
Yeah.
So why pay attention to them? That's an interesting way of approaching it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really love that. I mean, like, I was curious to find out, like, if maybe it was like your traditional, like, either savior, like, I'm going to save everyone by doing this, or I had a traumatized past that brought Eli's former self to the actual ceremony to become the Miscajai. Yeah, I mean, that really sounds beautiful. A way of, like, it wasn't forced on them in any kind of manner, and I really like that. I think in a lot of, I don't know, cultures, I want to say, that have, like, ceremonies where you, like, they need to, like, indoctrinate yourself into it. Like, you get to a point of, like, I kind of want to do this, and then you get forced into, like, taking the big step. And it kind of always feels like, did they really make that choice? Did they really want to do that, or was that one of a very limited selection of options that they had?
Yeah.
And, like, games convey the politics of the designers, right? Always, inevitably, even inadvertently. And one of the politics we wanted to do was, like, consent, right? And like, you choose the path you want to take, and especially for something like this, where your identity is essentially superseded, right?
Yeah. Okay, so now that we're officially talking about Eli, I can go back to the questions that I had while I was doing the recap.
Sure.
So is Eli, are you thinking Eli is going to be like the combat medic of the group? Or, like, I know not quite combat because it's not Eli's past, but what are you thinking about that?
Yeah, if you heard me speak into this briefly during episode 0, I believe, I was a Navy corpsman or a combat medic.
Yep.
And luckily all my calls to action were just helping or saving people. So from that standpoint, I wanted Ili to. I've never been able to play that in a game. Like usually have like, just to reference other TTRPGs, you have the paladin, but like that's more from the standpoint of like I have these values that I must attend to the highest order, and you have your clerics who like I obey like this deity, where like this is more of a not so much all these like beings and stuff. It's more like the corpsman in the sense of you hold the responsibility of life in your hands and also to protect the people who you care about. So it's not necessarily like combat, but it's more about like, that's why I have like certain traits for Ili, like focus and low on glory and high on we're a community and what is it influence or something? Because like when you're a corpsman in the military, like you're around Marines and like you have to hold sway. Like you have to get to the point where they trust you so that you can help them, because if they don't trust you, you can't help. So in the sense where I kind of try and play Ili as that character of let's come from a standpoint, and I spoke into practicing what they preach and being a leader and trying to kind of be influential in that sense. So I try and approach Ili in the same way that they can either help out their friends in the situation, which we saw play in episode 3 or 2, where it's like, this is an intense moment. I need to also man my station, but I also need to give help. And those are the critical points that I think Ili or Lightbringers bring to the table, is that out of all characters, they're really good at focusing on what needs to be the thing taken care of now so that we can all get out of this, or that we can succeed. And that's the standpoint of how I play Ili and how I play the Lightbringer profession or specialty.
Okay.
Nice.
I mean, I really love that. I really love that. So does that mean that we can start calling your character Doc? And do you get a scanner? Is that where we're going with this?
That's an interesting question. I don't know. I don't know.
Of course, it is the scanner an electronic device, or is it some kind of leech that absorbs like the genetic material from the person, processes it, and then the pus that comes out, the color gives you information or something?
Oh, wow.
Look at this.
Slug farts.
Slug farts.
Game development happening right here, y'all.
I love it. I cannot wait to hear Eugenio imagine slug farts and how that is going to get the diagnosis of a patient. I love it.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't wait.
Like they used to do urine tasting in the Middle Ages or Renaissance, whatever, to like diagnose diseases, right? So like, again, if we don't have that much metals, like maybe you've bioengineered a slug so that it's like farts taste or smell, or it's like pus taste.
And you're like huffing slug farts.
There it goes. Yeah, I don't know. I think what's been emphasized when I looked at the character is like the scalpel, in a sense of, and I don't know if that's, I should read it more into it, but I don't know if the focus is like the scalpel can either heal or do damage or something to the sense or whatever, but I think that's kind of the flavor that they're going with. So yeah, I think we'll see as we continue on.
Okay. Yeah. I'm excited to see how that's going to play out. So those are the questions I had were about meta combat stuff.
Sure.
Okay. So, my next question is more about interactions. How is, Ili able to stand up to Sila 919 in like the calmest manner ever? Like,
I don't know because I was not calm. I know what Ili was doing, but that was like the hardest role-playing moment I've ever had. I'm just like, I have to like be serene and calm and level-headed, but also like Ili wouldn't let Sila 919 like go unchecked. Like they would check them a little bit. So I think it's because they think from a bigger picture standpoint that like we need to get this crew to be a crew, right? And they're a little bit more, I don't want to say proactive, but the way they do it is a little bit probably more jarring than I feel like Invicta is probably going to be better about bringing the group together, where Ili is just like that tough love or tough like motherly love or just like that tough parent love of just like, listen, we are not going to play that. Like we need to come together. So
Yeah,
I think
leave your ego in the at the
yes.
door.
And I think that's where Eli approaches the calmness, like knowing that maybe the bigger picture is more important than feeling uncomfortable. But Michael, I don't get that. Like I don't want to be that. I don't want to do it. But that's not who Eli is. So.
Also, like alien superpowers don't have to be about laser eyes. They can be about an inhuman amount of patience.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
This guy maybe are just really
has.
patient. Their brains are wired differently.
Yep. For sure.
The symbiosis, is another question I had, and maybe you don't have the answer to this, but are there two voices happening in the same consciousness, or is it one voice, and that voice is like on a different frequency wave of the other two individual entities? What I mean?
This is interesting. Oh, do you want to go? Sure.
Oh, I don't know, because that's what I was going to say. We might have different interpretations of this.
Sure.
Right? I wrote something, but like, what does the player imagine, right? Mm-hmm. So, Michael, what are you imagining?
There's many like avenues you can take with this, but how I was playing this character and how I want to bring it to the community, how I want to bring it to the game, is that I feel like you have different life experiences and different values and different the things that are important, like I guess I said values, but things that they hold dear. And I think that all comes together in one person, but I don't think there's two separate, at least for this character. It's not two separate entities like talking each other out and like battling it out or like coming to some sort of compromise or just being best friends. It's just, they are who they are. They are one singular being. The people that came before them, or the beings that came before them, doesn't really, not that they don't matter, like they do respect that and they respect where those things happen, but they came together in a consensual sense of like, we're gonna be the same being and we're gonna bring the best of us into any situation we come into. So I think in my head, like at all times they're the same being. It is the same being, but they kind of have like a in your chest or in your head, you feel like a sense of right or wrong or a sense of responsibility or whatever. Like, I feel like there's maybe two of those things happening, but it's not thoughts. It's more of like these feelings or these kind of instincts that kind of come together in unison to one action or response to like anything. That's kind of how I've seen it so far.
And I love this thing about art, right? Because the death of the artist, right? The artist can say something, and then the player, in this case, can say something completely different. And I'm not going to be able to be like, no, you're wrong. Why? Right? Because the player can play the way they want, right? DMs can homebrew anything they want. In this case, of course, we are very aligned, right? I imagine the Misajai to be like when the young adult, not really teen, young adult, decides to undergo the ceremony, they know what's going to happen is they're going to ascend into a new state of being. And the Misajai, so the Minabai itself is non-sentient, right? So the Minabai itself alone cannot consent because it is a non-sentient thing, right? But when it is introduced into the like person, the two fuse and literally rewrite and become a new single personality. So it's not like multiple personalities, right? And we know from modern science that, for example, trauma is carried in the physiology, right? Like trauma can stay within the body. A lot of things can reshape the brain. We don't know all the details. So I was taking that idea, kind of like what Michael is saying, is that you might have these some things that like make you, that are part of your experience from the human body, but you are a completely different person. In fact, when you are reborn after the ritual, you are like an infant. Like, you're not a teen, you're an infant who has to be retaught almost everything again, except for the fact that Misajai learn much faster. So you have, like, rather than 17, 18 years, you can take 3 years or 3 to 5 years, whatever, and then you can relearn and become. And like Michael said, this is an intelligent being, so they know what's happened to them. They're like, my body was once part of another person, so I will respect that, but I am no longer that person. I am me. I am a Mrs. Jai. That was my thought. I think Michael interpreted it very much the same way as I intended it.
Absolutely.
Of course, it wouldn't matter if he didn't, because he is the player, right? So
Sure.
I love that. I really do. That's amazing. I mean, it's such an interesting way to think about how to bring them together, and like the little tidbit that that the plant life form, can you say
the
the name
Minabai,
again?
yeah.
Minabai. The Minabai aren't sentient, so like it's really just preserving it in an effort to preserve the Minabai. The symbiosis takes place, and then you have an entirely new being.
And entirely that is it's really a synergy. It was neither of those could have done this on their own. Again, that theme of unity again comes up, right? Like as a united thing, we are better than the sum of our parts.
Okay. So do all the Messagai have the same sense of community and togetherness? Like after like does going through this ceremony put you into a similar personality trait of Ili, of like having the sense of community and whatnot, or is it that you can still have bad,
I think most probably come out of the ceremony kind of not like Ili. I feel like everyone's different. I feel like everyone's different, right?
Yeah.
So I think you get that still, but I think most of the time what comes from that is, how Sharang was saying, some sort of elevation or some sort of superseded ascension in a sense. So like enlightenment or whatever have you. So I feel like that most of the time results to something very positive, but I can also see in a standpoint where like maybe something happened during the ritual, or like, they come out of the ritual or the ceremony and they learn things in the 3 years and just things kind of take a left or right turn. Like that is definitely possible in the spectrum of Misagi. And so like, I don't believe that all Misagi are probably all good. I feel like most, I certainly feel like most, but I can see, I can personally see in my head where people or Misagi can take a left or right turn during that 3-year process.
And I don't want to be bioessentialist about it by saying, right, this symbiotic experience will always make you think in a certain way, because that's not true for humans, right? All humans think different. I like to think that most humans are good and some might not be, but right. So similarly, like if you come out of this ritual understanding the fact that you were once two beings that came together, you might be predisposed to the idea of community, right? You might be like, well, this is what my body is, so why don't we emulate this in our social structures? However, these are all individual thinking people. Some of them might be like, I don't remember any of that. I did not choose that. I do not believe that I would have chosen that. I rebel against this. Or like, I have come together, which means I am better than all of y'all. So I'm going to take over all of y'all, right? I am better than the Hayano, right? So like, and that's all about the cult. That's one thing that we're trying to do with the whole culture rather than like race or species or whatever, right? And we're doing that. Like, yes, we recognize there are different species. Obviously, the Hyanol are not humans in the same way, right? But we didn't want to pull focus on that. We wanted to pull focus on this culture aspect. So Misajai are cultured and taught to be about community because the pre-existing Misajai feel that. But of course, there would, like, just like in every society, there will be some people who think differently, and maybe not in a bad way either. Right?
Absolutely.
Some Misajai might be like, you know what? We need a little bit of individualism in this society. Like, we are far too communal, right? I was listening to Mark Rosewater talk about black mana, right? Where everyone's like, it's evil, black mana evil. He's like, no, it's just individualistic, right? Which is different from evil. So
no, I really do enjoy that, and like that's something that we brought up in our like interview last week with Tanya, and she stated it again, and I think that it's nice to see it continue to be brought up. That this is not oh crap, now I kind of forgot my train of thought here. Where was I going with this? I had a whole soapbox.
Culture. I think you're talking about culture and species.
Yes. So one species or race is not inherently good or bad. That you can have, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the character is an individual and should be allowed to be an individual. And so, yeah, I love it that y'all are driving that home because it's important, because you
Yep.
think of the orcs or, other species that are associated with black and brown bodies and
Yeah.
associated with being dumb savages.
And
Yep.
like Tanya, and one of the notes she gave us one point was like, don't make all the villains like white people analogs, right?
Mhm.
Because that, people of all ethnicities can be not nice or nice,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think that is a really good thing to remember and a really good note for Tanya to give us all, right? Because as a predominantly, or I think entirely like person of color development team,
Mhm.
it might be easy to fall into that trap. Be like, yeah, but it's good to remember that we're trying to create a interesting world, not just a more silly sort of simplistic.
Yeah, not just an anti-Western world.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Okay, so while Michael has stepped away, I think I have another question for you, Sharang. What do you? Maybe you can't answer this one because you haven't seen the most recent
I watch
episode.
episodes slowly. I'm also watching Film Festival right now, so I've been focusing on the NYC
Okay.
LGBT Film Festival is going on right now. So
Oh, okay. I'll have to check that out. I didn't know
entirely
that.
online. Yeah, check it out.
Oh, yeah. That is the one good thing that's kind of coming out of this is
Yeah,
that I have
yeah.
accessibility to way more than I did before.
I'm
Yeah.
simultaneously doing Indiecade and NYC LGBT Film Festival at the same time, even though they're in different parts of the country, right? Because
Yeah. Yeah, because you can have multiple tabs open, like
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so I guess I got one more question, two more questions, and then
Sure.
I'll pass it back over to Candy.
Sure.
Who would win in a PvP battle, Silent 919 or I Lie?
Oh, that is interesting.
And it will be clipped
a
for
battle
later.
of
So.
what? A battle of wills? A battle of wits? Or fisticuffs?
The two of them are in a dispute. Who would win? The rest of it is up to your interpretation. However, that's going to be handled physically, mentally, emotionally. It's up to y'all. But
yeah, I feel like it's like a movable force with like a one that just has constant velocity and acceleration. Like I feel like that's what's going to happen there.
Just make out. That's the best one.
I wouldn't expect that at all. Like that. Right?
I think the dice would have to decide that one. I think we would definitely both be game, but I think the dice would have to definitely decide there for sure.
Okay. I hope it doesn't come to that, but if
Me
it
neither.
does, I will have my popcorn ready.
Sure. I'll need some self-care afterwards, like off screen. You won't see me. I'll just like cry off to the side. Win or lose, like that will probably end up happening.
Yeah. Someone get this man a blankie.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, last question, then I'll hand it back off to Candy. Is there a way to nerf Eugenio's roles? Because it's outrageous, and can y'all do anything?
If I'm involved, that's a no. I historically roll very low, and if I'm not rolling low, my DM is rolling silly high. So that's just how that goes. I was very surprised that I was rolling pretty decent last week, and that everyone was rolling poorly. But then I was like, maybe I just pushed it off to everyone else. But typically, everyone's rolling fire, and I'm just like one, hitch, botch, whatever. That's my gig. And I have like some really awesome RP moments that totally make sense for my character. And it's going to be like a real good key point. And I just botched the roll. Everything makes sense until that roll. So that's just how that goes. So I think Eugenio is unstoppable for sure.
And I think that's the beauty of tabletop role-playing games, right? Weird misses happen and then you roll with it. And then you move forward from there and see what happens.
Pi is very familiar with that in our game. Unfortunately, they are the one that rolls the worst. The most amount of time.
I've had my clothing replaced so many times because they keep getting destroyed because I keep rolling nat ones, and it's very frustrating. And the fact that my DM is right here, like we have the same relationship, like I roll low, she rolls high. So I can't do nothing but just be mad about it,
Yeah. RNG is bullshit,
It's absolutely bullshit.
But it makes very fun times for
It
all of
does,
us and everybody
entertaining as hell.
watching.
Lol.
It's entertaining as hell to just
Yeah.
watch me go like, yeah, I'm gonna do some cool monk shit, and then nope, you're on fire.
That's
Yeah,
about
I'm
right.
supposed to be able to backflip off of this. Nope.
You're on fire.
You're sure not. You're sure not.
You went 100% slipped on nothing, and now you're on the ground. Mad
Cool.
and naked equals du jour. Yeah, mad and naked. That's my character.
That's fair.
Did you have another question, Pi?
I mean, I have tons of questions, but I know that we're one over time, and two,
Yeah.
you have other questions you want to ask too.
I actually just have one more.
Sure.
So, Michael,
Yes.
what kind of growth would you like to see for Eli throughout this run?
That is very
And this is not
interesting.
a parasitic mutualistic symbiont growth.
Correct.
Yes.
Extra growth.
That's really
Personal
hard.
growth.
Oh man, that's really difficult. I think what might be the trouble for Eli might be I think we all kind of like I've seen, and I've been this person. There's people who have a hard time like disconnecting or just like winding down or like, you know, being able to chill and relax. Like Eli does the meditation and like being in the hammock for like, they're doing exactly that just to get the self-care done, but not really because they enjoy it or because they're about it. I don't think like that's what I think about them. I think they do it because not that it's expected for them, but they know that's what they should be doing and not so much a self-care thing. So I feel like if everyone is kicking it, I don't know if Eli certainly would be really good at kicking it. Like they would be like, oh, we got to kick it because everyone else is doing it. So like, yeah, let's do this. Let's get it done. Which is weird. That's a little bit of my own personality with certain things. So maybe I'll learn some stuff, but I think especially more so for Eli that maybe their self-care or maybe their way to like wind down isn't really that good. Like they're not, I don't want to say high strung, but they're very purposeful about almost everything that they do. So I don't know if Eli is someone who knows how to chill necessarily.
Wow, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
can't wait to
calm and
see how
subdued
rolls
that
out. Right.
Yeah. How do you not? You're literally the embodiment of chill, but you're just like going through the motions, and like that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, yes, that's all the questions that we have for you two today. I would like to thank you all. Thank you two for joining us, and thank you for everybody for tuning in to Back to the Motherlands. Before we go, we want to actually hear about what other projects you are working on.
First, Michael?
Sure. Yeah. Because I don't want to follow you, so I will go first. All right. So yeah, I'm Michael Sinclair II. Michael Crits everywhere. Usually doing some stuff on Twitter. I've been really busy with college stuff, as people would know, because I'm not streaming as much, which I normally like streaming Magic the Gathering, World of Warcraft, and Baldur's Gate 3, which I do. I'm on Fayforge Academy podcast with a couple awesome folks in the TTRPG community. It's just an amazing podcast. I get my refuel for the week playing that. And then I'm also playing on Looking for More as a Journey to Obsidian Spire. So kind of a part or full-time student, part-time professional role player. That's what I do. That's who I am. And I'd like to do some more video gaming, but whenever I can find the time. So that's it.
Awesome.
Nice. I'm doing a lot of things, some which I cannot talk about. I'm currently playing in a streamed campaign of The Dark Eye that WebDM is hosting, and it's officially sponsored by Ulysses Spiel, the publisher of The Dark Eye. It's a 80s German role-playing game that has a new edition in English. I'm currently writing fiction for an upcoming set for Magic the Gathering, which I know Michael's really excited about, but I can't really say more than that, except that
Please.
I don't know, magic in it. Magic in it.
And it is gathering.
And there's definitely some gathering. Yeah, we gather the magic even. I'm doing that. My anthology that I published through Pelgrane Press, who you may know from, publishing 13th Age and Gumshoe and things like that, and hashtag feminism. I just recently published a co-edited Honey and Hot Wax, an anthology of erotic art games, which is a collection of role-playing games, tabletop and LARP about sex. So check that out. We got 2 grants to make this book of 9 different queer authors,
Awesome.
designers,
Nice.
most of whom are POCs. And that is actually up for an Indiecade Award, which is one of the biggest independent game festivals in the world. And the announcement for that is going to be on Friday. So I'm really excited. If you're interested, throughout the week on Indiecade's schedule, they're going to be showing clips and demos of things that we demoed. So that's cool. And then the other big thing that I love to talk about is in partnership with Strange Horizons, which is one of the most well-known speculative fiction magazines. A co-editor, Cleo Yansu Davis and I are co-editing Strange Lusts, Strange Loves, an anthology of erotic, speculative, interactive fiction. So like Twine, think, Choose Your Adventure Twine kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The Kickstarter preview is now up. Search for Strange Lusts, Strange Loves, or look at my Twitter. And we're launching the Kickstarter probably next week. So check that out. We have like a number of like Hugo Award-winning writers and like World Fantasy Award-winning writers, things like that involved. It's gonna be really cool. We have some really awesome stretch goals planned, including famous names in the TTRPG world. So do check that out. We really believe in expanding the role of human romance, sexuality, and relationships, and like getting people to talk about those.
Awesome.
Awesome.
I love it.
Yes, lots of stuff for us to look forward to and to check out right now.
Michael's only fixed on one. Michael's fixed on that one Magic the Gathering story.
Yeah, right. He's like, I didn't hear the rest of whatever you said.
I tuned it also out because there's a lot to follow. Like, I'm glad I didn't follow it up. I heard Magic, and then I was like, I'm checking out because this person's awesome. They're up to a lot of things. So.
Thanks.
And for all the people that are joining us for the first time today, me and Pi are part of the Dicey Amazons. There are a total of 6 of us. We are a cohort of BIMPOC and non-binary non-binary people of color. And we usually are doing something every day of the week on this channel or in our Discord. And so tonight, of course, back to the Motherlands. Thursdays, we have alternating shows, Dicey Science, and Parallels. Parallels is a show that actually Pi and one of the other Amazons, Kalia, co-host, where they actually watch interviews from the 60s through about the 80s, and they from activists from that time, and they actually talk about how that parallels to what's happening into the with the world today. Fridays, Pi's usually doing some gaming on the channel. Saturday we have Vibrant Legends, which is an all BIMPOC rotating cast that plays indie RPGs. So that's a lot of fun. We've had some
indie RPGs, everyone.
Yes. We've had some really interesting ones played on Saturdays, and they are
You
amazing.
should totally play something from Honey and Hot Wax. I'll send you a complimentary copy.
We just played something in that vein, and so I'm very sure we can get some people together for something like that.
Yeah, the last one we did was it was erotic, trashy novels.
Prose. I don't know if you've heard of Purplist Prose. Yeah,
I haven't. I want to now.
Oh, it is. It's really good. Yeah, they basically
trashy erotic novel writers.
They were writing.
It got weird.
Yeah, it got real weird.
There we go.
Hilarious.
They make cheese sexy. I don't know how you make cheese even sexier.
I mean,
cheese, though.
Though, if it's good cheese, like,
have you seen the goo? The pull? It's sexy. That's sexy.
Yeah.
Sundays we alternate between our D&D homebrew and community games, and so we have a show called Dicey Debates where we debate like random stuff and not serious at all.
I win most of the time.
Sure.
You should talk about the role of STEM education in America again.
Oh wow, that's way too deep for that debate show.
Yeah,
no, this show like apples and olives.
Yeah, like one of our popular ones was John Wick versus menus.
You just mad because you lost that one.
Whatever. it's hard to go up against John Wick. I mean, what can I say?
It's true. It's true.
So and then Mondays we have Otaku Outhouse on Mondays, a show where we review anime series and shows as well. And Tuesdays we have a blurred list of this and that. I told you we have stuff like every day.
Y'all got stuff.
Yes,
every day. It's a whole thing.
Yes, Kalia hosts a show where she talks about comics and poetry and books by people of color, and it is amazing. And she does readings, and it's a lot of fun. So that's the rundown. If you're new to this channel, because I know we have a few people that haven't been here before. But you can find the rest of the cast at their socials in chat. You want to pop that in for me, Pie?
Yep.
We want to thank our sponsors, Dice Envy and Grinding Coffee Co. Don't forget to use the promo code Dicey Amazons for 10% or more off of your order. And don't forget to watch Into the Motherlands on Sundays at 4 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Central, 7 p.m. Eastern, and midnight BST over in the Londons across the pond.
Is it Motherlands or just Mother? Oh, found it. Got it. Continue. Sorry.
Okay. We look forward to fanning out with you all in chat during the show. And then we're also usually in the Discord and the voice channel, also cracking up as well.
And I will watch weeks later.
Yeah.
That's how I consume my streams.
It's great.
Hey.
That's totally fine. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And remember that you are always welcome at our table. Y'all have a good night.